So but to the heart of my question, recognizing the number of people in this room who have concerns about health, who have concerns about other issues around 5G technology, the FCC essentially preempted every state and locality in the nation by putting in place this declaratory ruling. So 5G, based on the FCC ruling, will roll out across the nation. What we have the opportunity for in Michigan is to try and customize within what the FCC has now made the law of the land, what will happen in Michigan. That we do not have the ability in the state of Michigan with the Federal Communications Declaratory Ruling to halt the rollout of 5G.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Without reference to this bill in particular, as a member of the legislative branch, my only authority comes from the 90,000 people that elected me, not from the Federal Communications Commission. And the judiciary can do its job in its sphere of influence.
Well, I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I think the FCC has wildly overstepped its limitations.
Representative Lauer has a question.
Thank you. Recognizing our hard stop at 10 a.m., I will make this brief. As we're looking at the FCC declaratory ruling and as we look at the legislation that's before us, I respect the 1,200, 1,400, 2,000 municipalities that have participated through the MML and the MTA. That's been given. It will be my understanding as I support this legislation that the terms of this legislation will be fully supported, the negotiated tenants in the areas where the FCC declaratory ruling is silent. The areas where the FCC declaratory ruling is silent are some of the most important areas to our local government to ensure that they have the ability in residential, downtown, and historic districts to ensure that this deployment meets local zoning requirements and meets what is expected in the communities. And so I will be over, if I am honored by the voters to return, expect the industry and others to abide by the agreements that we've come to here where the FCC declaratory ruling is silent. And so I look forward to that growing relationship and partnership and respect for our local communities and the deployment of this technology. Thank you.
For the record, we have 27 cards submitted today in support of the legislation and 194 cards submitted in opposition, but from people who either did not wish to testify or deferred their opposition. Seeing no further members of the committee, I'm going to offer some brief comment. I understand the industry's urgency. I'm going to offer some comment because it has to precede any motion that's coming. I understand the industry's urgency on this question. I'm personally not convinced that it's necessarily in the public interest. And I would bring to the committee's attention just last week, the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that a mandatory smart meter policy violates the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. So some of the things that have come before this committee, and the second example I was going to offer, you remember the two older guys who came and testified that some radiation was actually helpful, beneficial to your health? The Drudge Report had a headline last week from the Associated Press in which it reported that the Trump administration's EPA is adjusting the standards for radiation exposure to reflect that as a scientific fact. So some of the things that are brought before us that might at first blush be thought to be non-expert have since been found to have substance beyond what we might have initially given them. I'd simply say in conclusion, if not a stop sign, proceed with caution would be appropriate. But as you've often heard our Speaker of the House say, he's Speaker of the House, not Dictator of the House, and I'm Chairman of this committee. I'm not the dictator of this committee, and our democratic process allows the committee to do its work. I'd ask what is the pleasure of the committee. Representative Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to report out Senate Bill 637, and I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this legislation.